Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hello. I almost said hello, welcome, but then I realized
Hi.
that was already taken care of. Hello, I'm DJ Ross. I'm in Mountain View, California.
Each week on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week, that list includes Dave the Diver and Silent Hope.
Ooh. Doing some diving.
Mm.
Doing some hoping.
Surprisingly little diving for a game called Dave the Diver.
I assumed you really, that is not the majority of the game you spend diving?
No, it's more like Dave the Restaurant Manager.
Okay, well, he's multi-talented.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, we'll dig into that.
Okay. We'll dive into it later on.
Master of the segue, DJ Ross.
Terrible.
We should mention at the top of the show here that we continue to raise funds for Extra Life. We can do that until the end of the year, December 31st. So if you still would like to chip in and support the charity, you can do that at VGHangover.com/extralife. DJ and I will not be doing any more 24-hour video gaming marathons between now and the end of the year. At least I will not.
It's like, speak for yourself. Who knows? Yeah. Sometimes I just do one for fun.
There's 24 hours every day for us to play video games.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it all goes towards this amazing charity. They're already having a pretty great year. Why not make it slightly better if you find you've got a little extra cash kicking around?
Yeah. Yeah. Why not?
What else we got going on, DJ? What other headlines, exciting things going on in the world of Video Game Hangover? What's going on in your world?
What's going on in my world? Well, I finally did it. My raid team cleared the final fight, and now we're done. So,
wow.
It finally happened. Oh my god. We've been doing this since June. I don't need to tell you. You know all about this.
It feels like it was only just yesterday, though.
It feels like it was only, it was only just maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago when I was on here complaining about my Final Fantasy raid group and how we were just stuck on this thing forever. But I don't know what happened. I guess, eventually you just put enough time into it that all the stars align and you beat the boss. And we did it this week. So
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know you had some frustrations maybe with your team not taking the challenge quite so seriously. Did you have to replace anybody? Were there terminations?
No. Fortunately, we did not have to substitute anybody. There was no drama, I think.
Didn't have to pivot to the understudy at the last minute?
No. Some groups will, they'll have alternates ready to go. Really hardcore groups. And I don't know if that's for, purely for replacement purposes, if somebody's not pulling their weight. I don't know if it's somebody gets tired, so they swap somebody else in so they can keep raiding. These are the crazy groups that try and beat the world records and try and clear as fast as possible.
They cut to John Lovett standing in the wings going, waiting his turn, just rubbing his hands together. Yes, he's falling apart.
Oh man, I would love to be on a raid team with John Lovett. So I wonder what the guy's up to.
What was that movie? What movie am I quoting? I just read this vision of him standing behind the curtain.
Was that, was he doing that in a movie? I thought you were just,
No.
Random
it's a 51st Dates or something where it's, yeah. I think I forget what the context was, but he was the main character's understudy or something. And he's sort of in the wings of the stage going, rubbing his hands together maniacally saying, oh, he's falling apart. Victory will be mine.
Yeah, man. I have not caught up with the recent, or the more recent Adam Sandler verse stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that one got through. I have not really either. So I don't think I've seen an Adam Sandler movie since Uncut Gems. No, neither have I. Yeah, as far as I know, John Lovitz wasn't in that one. Although
no,
it would have
to
been
the best of my knowledge,
if he was.
Although there were a lot of people really just yelling and talking very fast. So I maybe got confused.
Yeah, it would have been great if he was just one of the bidders in the auction scene. It'd be like, what? Was that John Lovitz bidding on that diamond or whatever it was?
That'd be great. Anyway, sorry, I completely derailed your story. I apologize.
No, there's always time for John Lovitz.
Right. It's top 3 John Lovitz guest appearances in cinema. Go.
Yeah. Oh my god. I don't even know where to begin.
I got nothing. I'm sorry.
But anyway, I finally did it. I am so glad that. This is something I've been wanting to do for the longest time. Not only clear one of these savage things, which I've done previously, but do it on my main job, which has a reputation of being, kind of difficult, and it's like puts the rest of the team at a disadvantage just because they don't really offer a lot of support. You're just there to do big numbers.
Oh.
But I was like, this is my
kind
main
of selfish
job.
Choice.
It is a little, they call it the selfish job, as a matter of fact.
Oh.
But previously, when I've done one of these raids, it's always been on like a different job, like an easier one, just because I feel like it's it's easier for me to pick up what's going on in the fight. But at some point, I was just like, I really want to do one of these on my main job, just to prove that I can do it. So I got super close to the last tier, and then I just could not get a good group for the final fight, so I gave up. But I did it this time. I got through the entire thing, and I'm very satisfied with that. So
nice.
It can be done. Maybe for my sanity, I may just go back to an easier job the next year. But I don't know. Who knows what will happen the next time around.
So I guess that's good. A good sort of follow-up question is: Do you in this raid group now pivot to a new challenge, or do you sort of disband and slowly walk off into the sunset in different directions? Or
I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are like fine with taking a break at this point. You know me, I'm always ready for the next thing. I'm just like, oh man, like we cleared it fairly early in the week. Like we still had more raid nights scheduled for the rest of the week, and I was like, so what are we doing on like Friday night or Saturday night or whenever the next one is? And I think at this point everybody was just content to go do whatever else they have going on in their lives.
Sure. I'm gonna go touch grass, drink some water.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, this is my first time in a group like this. I'm not sure what people do on the off nights after they clear. So I don't know.
What is customary?
Yeah. But I don't know. It's a sort of touching on an interesting point though, which is after you've done the latest raid tier, like what else is there for you to do aside from doing one of the ultimate tier fights, which I'm really, at this point, that's not what I want. And there's been like this growing gulf between stuff to do in the game that's like very easy to do and stuff that requires like a lot of study and preparation and, countless raid nights trying to beat the boss. So there's like not a lot of stuff in between. Which people are kind of like, why is that? Like, why can't there be more stuff in between? So I'm finding myself in that position where I'm just like, what is there for me to do? Maybe I should just go do other things.
Do you pivot to a different game? Do you have other games on your radar?
Well, I have been putting a lot more time into Persona 3 lately. That's just the game that never ends. So I feel like there would just always be more Persona 3 for me to come back to.
You can play it whenever you want. You don't have to schedule it with your friends.
Yeah, it's true. It's very convenient. But yeah, I've been using the extra time to, just not raid. It's been kind of nice.
Spend time with his family.
Yeah. Like it was a fun experience. I didn't get too stressed out about it, even though we were taking a very long time. I was chatting a bit with Eshin in the Discord because he just like quit the game entirely in the last tier because of like sort of team issues, I guess. Or he just decided it wasn't for him. And so it made me think of or it made me realize something, which is that despite us taking a very, very long time to clear the raid, like longer than I expected, there was just no toxicity whatsoever. So it was just a very wholesome group the entire time.
Oh, nice.
And it's hard to overstate how much of a difference that makes, as opposed to going into a random public group and hoping you just end up with 7 other like upstanding individuals. In fact, the only time there was any amount of toxicity was there was one week where we did have to replace somebody because they were just like busy that night and we still wanted the raid. So we just recruited some random person, like we put up an ad or whatever that's like, hey, we have a slot open that we need to fill.
Craigslist.
Yeah, and we just got some random guy and like a few like a few pulls into it. A pull is like one attempt on the boss. We weren't doing that great, and he made some comment, and it was like, "Oh, I can't believe," or just like, not I can't believe, but imagine dying to this mechanic, and somebody in the one of the other people in the group was just like, all right, you gotta lock that shit down right now or you're gone. And I was impressed. I was like, oh, I didn't know you had it in you to just shut him down like that.
Yeah.
But that was as toxic as it got. And yeah, so there is a lot to be said about just having a group that is always pleasant to play with, even if it's, not the world first clear group.
Right. And so did that person sort of lock his shit down from that point forward, or?
I think we went a few more rounds, and then
they immediately disconnect and talk crap about you.
I think we went our separate ways. So, and then we never heard from them again.
Well, cool. That's exciting. I don't think I've ever really sort of chipped away at a gaming objective for 5 months, so I don't have a relevant story.
Yeah, well, I mean, at some point you're gonna have to tell everybody about your Mario Odyssey progress, but it doesn't have to be right this moment.
It's been a little while since I picked it up. That I'd have to reacquaint myself, I think. But
yeah,
yeah,
I think that's probably the closest experience that I could imagine you would have is doing one of those really difficult Mario levels where you're just like, oh, every time I'll get a little bit farther, and maybe some night I will clear the entire level, but. Yes,
yeah. That certainly is what some of those late levels in Mario Odyssey are like. Yeah, it is very much a roguelike where you die and there's no checkpoints. You go all the way back to the beginning and you have to just try another run.
Yep, that's it. And it's like you have a similar roller coaster of emotions the whole time you're doing it, because sometimes you're just like, you're so close to the end. The end is in sight. And you make a stupid mistake and it sends you all the way back to the start, and it's kind of demotivating. And you're just like, oh, now I have to do it all over again. But that's one of the biggest challenges about being in one of these groups, I think, is just being able to, have the willpower to continue and ignore all the mistakes you've made and all the setbacks. So It's not simply about just being good at the game. But anyway,
interesting perspective. Yeah.
It's all done. Kind of taking a break from doing those raids for a bit. The next expansion is not out until next summer, so I have quite a bit of time to figure out what my plan is going to be.
Cool.
Plenty of time to finish Persona by then.
So I was going to say, we've got a few weeks left at the end of the year here before we kind of roll into our customary year-end wrap-up and Drunktacular and fun stuff like that.
Oh.
What games are on your radar for the next couple of weeks? What do you think you're going to be spending your time with as we march towards the end of 23 here? Do you have anything you want to go back to that maybe you missed earlier in the year or anything like that?
Well, Persona 3. I want to... man, I really want to just finish the game.
Game of the year 2012 or whatever year that was, yeah.
Oh, 2012. No, it's 2005 or 6, I think.
Is it really that old? Okay.
It's pretty old. It's pretty old. But who knows? Maybe I'll just move on to Persona 4. That's also not 2012. What else is going on? Want to play some more Street Fighter 6? Played a little bit of it during Extra Life. And I feel like Street Fighter is always just so easy to jump into. But also it's a very familiar experience to me, so it's not like, oh, I want to see what Street Fighter 6 is all about. It's just making time to play a fighting game.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but I've been having a lot of fun with what I've played so far.
I think I have a similar approach to PlayStation 5. Persona 5, where I feel like I maybe spend 3 or 4 hours with it a year. It's like,
yeah, that is not enough time if you want to get through a Persona game.
I don't have enough years left. But it's one of these things. I know how it controls. I have a pretty good understanding of where I'm at and where I left it, and I can jump back into it and still be sort of effective. I understand the challenge, and I don't have to reacquaint myself. I've had issues in games with the past. God of War, not the most recent one, but the reboot, I guess, Dad of War. I played a ton of that. And then I took a year off and I got back to it and I had no idea how to do anything anymore. Didn't remember what any of my power-ups were, didn't remember where I was at in the story, couldn't figure out how to fight with anybody. It's like, oh, I'm going to have to do this over again, aren't I? But I've never had that experience with Persona 5. I feel like anytime I go back to it, like, oh, I get this. It's like a comfortable shoe. I understand exactly what I should be doing.
So I'm really trying to not take too long of a break away from Persona 3 because I cannot afford to have to like restart this thing again.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And as much as I'm enjoying it, I still feel like it's just too long. Just like lots of pacing issues.
Yeah.
I appreciate, having a vast game to just dive completely into and have it take over your life, but it's so long and a lot of it is just kind of grindy. I don't know. I mean, it sounds like it doesn't even improve over the next couple of entries. And I feel like that's sort of what people expect from a Persona game, so that people will probably be upset if they change that to try and streamline it a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely spend a lot of time in Persona games not doing the main thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, if that feels grindy to you, it's probably, by design. I think it seems to be a feature, not a bug.
Yeah. It'll be interesting because I do plan to get to Persona 4 and eventually 5 at some point. Just to see how they all compare to Persona 3.
Yeah, I would love to see more shorter RPGs. I think I don't know who to write letters to at this point. Maybe it's Jeff Keighley. I'm not sure, but somebody's got to make short RPGs for those of us who try to play more than one game a year.
Just play some of those older Dragon Quests. I mean, they get quite long pretty quickly, but I was like 1 and 2 are kind of short.
They embrace their Dragon Quest potential at some point and just kind of steer into it, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know when that became a thing. I don't remember 3 being especially long, but it's definitely like starting to get into more typical, what I consider a JRPG length, which is like 30 to 40 hours. Yeah. Man, those Final Fantasy Pixel remasters are sitting right there. You could play one of those.
I should at some point in the course of our relationship play a Final Fantasy game, right?
Yeah, like 6 is pretty good. You should play 6. Everybody likes 6. Don't play Final Fantasy 1. You would not enjoy that.
Okay, good to know. Well, you and I, before we started the show, were talking about the new Yakuza little side project prequel thing.
Yeah, play that one. That one's short.
Isn't shortish. Like you said, around 9-10 hours, right?
I think so, yeah, according to websites. But it's also that one's an action game. I don't know if you would be into it.
Oh, right. We did talk about that too. Yeah, it's not the turn-based thing that I like.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't have time for any of the games in my list anyways, let alone
time for video games anyway.
Some 10 to 30 to 100 hour RPG. It's just complaining to hear myself complain at this point.
Yeah. Man, I keep thinking like I should get into the Trails games. And it's like, well, what are you saying? It'd be ridiculous.
That's come up in our Discord a couple times in the past, and I think you always sort of wade into it and like, oh, where should I start? What Trails game should I play? And I'm like, oh, DJ, you're not going to play any Trails games. We both know. Just hundreds of hours of video game.
See, I like that in theory. It's just so much game. Yeah. Maybe they're paced better than the Persona games. Maybe you just like pick them up. And they don't require as much like supplemental research because in Persona, I feel like I would be done with Persona 3 at this point if I didn't always like constantly have to go to the calendar to see like who can I hang out with today or what secret items am I going to need because I'm really just like living in the walkthrough for this game, which is not great.
Yeah, that's hard.
I just want to play a game and not have to like worry about the consequences of my actions.
Stress over every decision you make.
Yeah. I feel like that's a huge part of Persona.
Yes. Yeah, that's, again, a feature, not a bug, really. It's kind of what it's here to do.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I ended up playing a game like this.
Yeah. I remember having that experience because in Persona 5, you have, I think this exists in some of the other Persona games, that during the course of your school day, you'll have to pass exams. And I was like, well, I'm not going to fail exams. I'm going to look up answers on the internet. So,
they tell you the answers in the game if you pay attention in class.
Yeah. It's hard though. So I just didn't want to risk the consequences of being a failure as a student. So yeah, I definitely, that's one of the few things in Persona that I cheat at.
No, I'm just like cheating at everything.
That's fine. No judgment.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sure, you gotta live your life.
Persona 4, I'm thinking, like, I want to see if I can deal with just not using a walkthrough. I'll just, like, not become friends with anybody. I'll be, like, this total outcast weirdo with the lowest possible stats because I get all the questions wrong on tests. But we'll see how it goes. Maybe it's more enjoyable that way.
Yeah. I don't know. That would certainly be like what do they call it? The darkest timeline. There you go.
Yeah, just the worst Persona 4 playthrough.
What have you been playing lately?
I haven't checked in with this one since Extra Life, but it was one of the one of my favorite things I ended up playing. I played Silent Hope on the Switch, and I believe it's also on Steam. This is a dungeon crawler / roguelike action RPG, which has this like kind of retro PS1, PS2 look to it. This is the one that I was recommended via the Dragalia Lost subreddit. Because
okay,
it has a very similar art style. Like there's just these big bobblehead characters, and they get all these kind of fantasy jobs. So it looks like it could have been in the Dragalia Lost universe at some point. A lot fewer dragons, which some may consider a plus. So it looked kind of fun though, so I decided to check it out. There was a demo on the Switch, so I just like jumped right into it. And right away, you're just given the most basic, like, you given just enough backstory for them to set up an endless dungeon for you to jump into, where like the king has gone missing or something, and like the princess is very sad about it, so she cried so much she got encased in a magical crystal, and now all these adventurers are hopping into this dungeon trying to set things straight. It's kind of ridiculous, but like I said, just enough premise to set the game off and get you started dungeon crawling. Which is, after something like Persona, which I feel like is very mentally intensive, it's nice to just sort of, what you're getting every time you jump into this dungeon. It's like, okay, I'm going to beat up a bunch of monsters. I'm going to collect a bunch of resources, which I bring back to town, and turn that into better equipment, which will allow me to just get further into the dungeon. So pretty typical sort of dungeon crawler loop, I feel like.
Sure, like the greatest hits of dungeon crawling.
Sure. It's not complex enough where you need to be drawing your own maps or anything. Like the dungeons are different every single time you go in, so I don't think that would do you much good anyway.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, it's just a very simple kind of action RPG. All the character designs are very fun. You start out with, you start with this cast of kind of archetypal RPG classes. So you've got your sword fighter. Man, the main guy in this actually, like, I don't know if they have names even, but they're just like, okay, here's your all-rounder guy with a sword and shield. And he's just like some blonde kid. I'm just like, oh my God, get this guy out of here. I have seen this guy. I have played this guy already like 100 times too many. So I'm not even going to consider playing as this guy. But all the other characters, there's a sword fighter with this enormous like Monster Hunter looking sword, which is cool. There's a martial arts fighter who looks like some kind of like I don't know, upper class sort of princess like girl, but she's also got this big pair of boxing gloves. So I was like, oh, that's fun.
Oh wow.
There's like a mage, which I was excited to get into because it turns out I really like playing mages in RPGs now. And then I was just scrolling through this list of characters, and the last one, or like one of the ones along the way, is just like a maid in like a French maid outfit. I was like, okay, I don't know what's the deal with this job. I'll come back to this one later on. And then another hook there is that each of these jobs, not only do they have like their combat class, but they have the secondary function in the village outside of the dungeon. So like one of the characters is also the blacksmith, and one of them runs like the kitchen in town. And one of them, it's like I think the farmer job who she maintains the farm. Obviously, she's got a big pitchfork, but she's also like a pop star or something. So there's like just a bunch of weird crossover things going on in this game.
So that's a little like Fantasy Life almost, where you've got all the jobs.
Yeah.
And you're the adventurer by night.
Yeah. And you can switch between them pretty freely. Like even within the dungeon, you can just like swap out characters once you reach certain points in your progress. So it's not like you have to pick one and then you're just committed to it for the rest of the game. Which is nice because I don't think I don't know if I'd be into it as much if you just were stuck with one character. At some point, I probably will play that stupid blonde kid, but we'll see how it goes. So anyway, I started out playing as the girl with the boxing gloves, which was fun. You eventually unlock these like action abilities, which just take the gameplay beyond your basic sort of like button mashing attacks. They'll all have this fun sort of job appropriate effect, like whether it's like a charge move or some kind of spinning area of effect attack. They're usually pretty fun. I didn't end up loving that one character though, so I switched over to the mage, which I ended up really not liking, which was very disappointing. I don't know what it was about it. It may have been at the point of the marathon during Extra Life where I was just like dozing a bit, so it may have not have been the best introduction to this mage character. But I was like, okay, I'm really curious about this maid. What's going on with the maid? First of all, like, what job is she in the dungeon? So I picked the maid, and it just turns out, oh, she's a ninja. She's got these two knives. And so I was like, okay, that's great. That's really all you want out of like a dungeon crawler, just the ninja maid. And it turns out she was like by far my favorite of all the characters I had played up to that point. She is like pretty fun to attack with. She's got a lot of really fun like action abilities. And it was just like night and day between the maid and the other jobs I had played as. So I think I like took that character to the end of the demo where you fight this big boss, and I was just having a great time with it. And then so the demo ends, and it gives you the option to, well, I guess it like saves your progress and then lets you carry it over to the full game, which I fully intend to do at some point. It left on a bit of a cliffhanger actually, where you like beat the boss. And then I assume it saves the progress you made, but it's like, all right, see you in the full game. And I was like, wait a minute. I still kind of want to try out some of the other characters. And also, what happened to all the like equipment I had forged for my current characters? But presumably all of that is saved on my Switch somewhere, so I can just open it back up once I get the full game.
Cool. So is it do you get the sense that it's a chunk of the beginning of the main game and it just sort of you pick up from there, or do you have to replay what you've done?
Oh, no, it would let me continue. It was very clear about that. But
cool.
It wasn't like, it kicks you back into town and it's like, okay, whenever you're ready to progress, here's the link to go to the eShop. It just sort of kicked me back to the title screen without mentioning it. It was like, oh, so yeah, we saved all your progress up to this point. It was a little more ambiguous than other sort of games that I played that, they do the whole demo to full game conversion.
Yeah.
But, I assume my ninja maid will be waiting whenever I go to pick up the whole game.
The character design, you said the sort of big bobbleheads. I'm looking through it now, and what is the game that this reminds me of? Is it the Bravely games have these?
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Little chibi big head kind of characters.
Yeah. Very cute, like, I don't know, PlayStation 1 RPG kind of. But yeah, Bravely's a good comparison.
Cool. So is this a action game, turn-based? Did you say? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's action-based.
Cool.
I sort of wish it was on something other than the Switch. I mean, it's on Steam, but I probably wouldn't play it on Steam. Just because it's not... it's like kind of a, typical slightly underperforming Switch game. It would be nicer if it was much more fluid, since it's, it can get pretty hectic when you're fighting a bunch of monsters all at once, and you try to like aim your abilities as effectively as possible.
You're trying to do ninja maid things.
Trying to do my ninja stuff. Yeah, so, it's not quite 60 frames per second, which I'm usually not a stickler about, but I just felt like in this case it would have been nice. Would have been nice if this came out on the Switch Pro or whatever. But it is what it is. It's
maybe someday.
But it was really cool. I usually don't. I don't love games with this type of loop where it's just like, all right, go into the dungeon and get a little bit stronger, and eventually you'll be strong enough to just clear the entire dungeon. But I don't know. There's just something about the combat in this, and I'm kind of intrigued by all the different crafting stations in the village that I'm willing to sort of put that aside. It's kind of a nice distraction kind of game where you're just like, yeah, do a few hours of dungeon crawling, level up my guys a bit, and see if I can get some better equipment.
Right. Which it sounds similar to the loop from Dragalia Lost as well.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The game had a bit more of a story component. And there were actually, speaking of hardcore raids, there were some difficult battles in that, which I kind of decided I wasn't going to commit myself that much to it, so I would just put it on autopilot for those and see how far I could get. But, yeah, I might have spent a little more time with that if it was not, or if I could just use an actual controller instead of a touchscreen with it.
Instead of your phone, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Well, this looks like fun. It looks like, I don't know, like just kind of gaming candy. Like,
Yeah,
it's not anybody's game of the year, but it does a lot of things that kind of seem like a pretty good time.
Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. It's like, I don't feel like it's particularly like revolutionary or anything. But it's got a decent amount of different jobs you can play as. The combat was pretty enjoyable. The boss fight at the end was really good. And, since I'm not playing like Diablo 4 or whatever, I feel like this is kind of a nice, like family-friendly alternative.
Cool. I was looking to see who published, who developed it or whatever, and it looks like the publisher is Xseed, and they just put out the Fashion Dreamer game that everybody's losing their mind over on the internet. So
yeah, that's something I want to check out. Yeah, I'm not familiar with the actual developer behind this. I looked it up, and I don't think I had played anything that they had done previously. So I guess I'm just not missing any history there. But who knows? We'll see how it goes with the full game whenever I get around to it.
Cool.
I think they actually let you do a lot of stuff in the demo, so I think I got a pretty good sample of what's there. They just don't let you go past a certain number of floors in the dungeon, where all the, most exciting loot is hanging out, so gotta get the full game to get to the really good stuff.
But it sounds like you got a boss battle in the demo.
Yeah, well, they sort of cap it off with the boss battle just to give you an idea of what that's like. So yeah. I imagine there are just more interesting sort of like dungeon environments and, even more bosses later on, and even fancier like maid knives or whatever. So should be good. I'm looking forward to getting into it at some point. I'll probably try and balance this with with Persona 3, see how much dungeon crawling I can handle.
Yeah. All the dungeon crawling.
It's been a while since I played just a straight up go into a dungeon and clear it out and go back to town kind of deal. Like I said, I'm not playing Diablo 4, so I don't really know what the alternatives would be in the meantime.
I went through a wave of those on the 3DS with the Etrian Odyssey games.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Those are the ones. A lot of those. That doesn't really seem like it would be your thing.
Yeah, I was kind of into them. I never really got like 100. Those are similar to the Persona games. They're like 100 hours long, but I definitely I've played parts of 3 or 4 of them. I think maybe 3 of them.
Yeah, I thought about getting into those too. I was just like, oh, which one of these should I start with?
And the hook with those on the 3DS was it's like first person dungeon crawling, so you're kind of using the bottom screen on the 3DS to draw the map as you go through it on like graph paper, essentially on the bottom screen. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought mechanically it was kind of interesting, and they all got to a point where they were too hard for me to kind of hang in there. I just didn't have the patience to lose all my progress and get flunked back to the main screen or whatever all the time. But conceptually, I thought that was kind of fun. And those two, I think, were pretty generic. You had a very like generic and bland kind of party, and I didn't remember who any of the characters was. I think you named them at the beginning, so it was always me naming people after my dogs and stuff. But yeah, there is something kind of mechanically about them I found satisfying.
I really like playing games like that once in a while, where it just feels like this incredibly pure, sort of like simplified version of a more complex game where it's like, yeah, just go into the dungeon and fight people. I mean, I really liked going back to Dragon Quest 1 and Final Fantasy 1 recently just because it's like, oh, it's so simple and straightforward. It's just like, I know what to do at all times, basically.
What was the one that was this sort of essentially last year that you were into that was kind of like, it was just numbers on graph paper in a lot of ways, right?
Oh, Dungeon Encounters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one really was just like as minimal as you could make one of these games. It was extremely good, though, although it was also quite long. I got the sense that I had to grind out quite a bit to get through the entire thing. But yeah, if you're talking about, pure distillations of a genre, it's like you can't get much simpler than Dungeon Encounters.
Nice. That was the first thing I thought of when you said that. I was like, oh, what was that one?
Yeah, I mean, it was almost like they simplified it to the point of absurdity, where it's like, nothing even animates. There aren't even icons on the map yet. It's just numbers that you're walking across. It was kind of silly, but it was a lot of fun. It was a good game.
Cool.
Anyway, how many dungeon crawlers have you been playing?
None. 0. I have no dungeon crawlers. Although Persona 5 Tactica does come out this week, so I am ever the obedient servant of my Persona overlords, and will most likely play some of that if time presents itself over the next couple of weeks. Yeah. Yes, I'm curious about that. So that's bound to have some dungeon crawling in it. I'll have to report back.
Is that like going to be another 100-hour game?
I don't know. There's no previews. Well, there's some previews, but there's no reviews yet. So I don't think anyone has commented on length of the game.
Did you wrap up the Strikers game? Was that 100 hours?
No, please get out of here.
Well, I was like, I can't imagine that would be that long, but I was like, maybe he actually finished it. I don't know.
No, I played a lot of it, well beyond the scope of our backlog attack over the summer. But no, I still have not seen credits roll on a single Persona game ever in my life.
Oh man, it's just like, well, maybe you should play one of the short ones. And it's like, oh, well, I wonder what the shortest Persona game actually is.
It is the short one, yeah, exactly. I don't know. Well, this actually says Strikers is only about 35 hours in length.
Okay. Yeah, that's still
probably the shortest Persona game.
Yeah, unless you play one of the, just play the fighting game. That's probably like 40 minutes long. You beat the last boss.
the dancing one. That's probably
yeah.
And
I didn't play the dancing one.
Bounced off of the dancing one much faster than the usual Persona games. So.
I feel like I'm just not progressing through Persona 3 fast enough to hear most of the music. Like, it's been the same 4 or 5 songs for the entirety of the game that I played so far.
Oh.
It's just a slow game. Like, where's the rest of it? Just show me the rest of it. I want to see it.
I mean, it's one day at a time, man. That's all you can do.
Ugh. They've been, like, amping up the previews on the Reload version that's coming out. They just dropped a bunch of remixes, or not remixes, but like soundtrack remasters.
Oh, the Persona 3 like remake that's coming out early next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was just like, I haven't heard most of these songs somehow. Like, where are they? At one point, like, when do you get to hear new music in the game? I don't know. It's just like, it's so long.
You got to earn it. You get to your 100th hour, and that's when it really kicks in.
Seriously. It's just like, oh, we saved all the music for the end.
This is 3 hours of credits. That's what
I bet the credits are like shorter than the average game these days.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it is. It is a pretty old game.
Yeah. Anyway, Persona 3 is long. It's just the running theme of this episode.
Yes. I've been playing and got a little fixated on Dave the Diver recently.
Yeah.
This is
keep talking about how much you want to play this game.
Yeah, it was on my radar. It kind of, again, it's one of those ones, it's a little indie game. I guess it's not that little. It's
okay. Wait a minute. No, I have to correct you because everybody's making a fuss about this. It's not an indie game.
It is not.
It's developed by an enormous Korean developer.
Yep. True.
Okay, sorry. I just have to get that out of the way.
Yes. When I heard the words coming out of my mouth, I was like, no, that's not accurate. I've learned that that's not true. Yeah. So it is this massive Korean product called Dave the Diver. And it came out over the summer. It came out only on Steam initially. Started picking up a ton of really good reviews, and people started talking about how really good it was. And I was like, what is this game? Do I need to play this? And I was like this close to grabbing it for the Steam Deck when they announced it's coming to the Switch. And I almost
that was a close call.
Almost always prefer to play things on the Switch. So I just waited a few more weeks, and there it was. There's a demo for this as well. So if you're interested in checking out Dave the Diver, there's a nice demo on the Switch that gets you to the first 3 days of the kind of in-game calendar. So it's about 90 minutes of gameplay. And any of your progress there continues into the main game. So when you start the main game, there's actually an option on the main screen that says continue from demo. And it just moves all of your stuff over. And you just pick up on day 4, which is cool. So really no downside to checking out the demo if this is interesting to anybody. So the hook here is that you're Dave the Diver. You're enjoying just sort of blissful anonymity, just kind of relaxing and living your best life when a friend of yours reaches out and says, hey, I'm opening a sushi restaurant. I need your help. Come catch fish for me and I will make sushi and we'll make money together. It'll be great. So because you're a nice guy, you go and put on your wetsuit and dive into this mysterious blue hole, which is the odd body of water outside of the sushi restaurant that is different every time you dive into it.
Well, it's not like the ocean you're diving into; it's just a hole.
It's it's a hole full of water, but it's
Well, yeah, I figured that much.
Yeah, it has got to be the ocean because there's saltwater fish in it and things like that. So
okay, but you just have like this one secluded entry point into the ocean.
Right. Yeah. You're not traveling the world and diving into various oceans and things like that. It's just one geographical space. They call it the mysterious blue hole. And when you go in, it's different every time. There's different depths, different kind of land masses and structures. There's different fish depending on what time of day it is and things like that, and where you are in the calendar. And so it's a bit of a treat every time you hop in to see what awaits you below the surface. You get a bunch of tools to kind of catch fish. It's cute and fun at first because they're basically tiny little pixels on the screen that you're just using a little harpoon or a little knife or a net to catch until they get much bigger and start fighting back or start chasing you quite aggressively. And then it's not really cute anymore. It's definitely not a vegan friendly game by any stretch.
How big of a fish are we talking here? Are you like fighting like megalodons or whatever?
Not that I've encountered yet, but I have taken out one shark.
Oh, okay.
I felt bad about it. It was just a cloud of red water. It was like, oh, none of that feels good. I'm really dealing with some serious kind of killing digital animals guilt here. And
I was thinking there's more pleasant ways to depict that in a game. You don't need to do the whole red cloud approach.
Yeah, I mean, to the point where, and I'm almost never this person in video games, but I went into the settings to see if there's some way to like turn off the the gore, or turn off blood, or make it some other color or something.
A green cloud, yeah.
Yeah, but no, unfortunately, that there was not an option. You just have to sort of grin and bear it. But mostly it's it's sort of pixel graphics, so you're dealing with cute little blobs of white or multicolored. Yeah. You can barely even tell what they are.
You should have played on the Steam Deck. You just download whatever blood color you want.
Yeah. Unfortunately, now it's just, I'm on my OLED Switch and everything is just visually quite stunning. But yeah, so there's that loop with you diving and exploring. There's a ton of other stuff that'll happen too over the course of the game. You get missions. People will come out, conservationists will come out and say, can you take pictures of this? Can you retrieve this artifact for me? There's a bunch of different stories and stuff that sort of emerge, and people will give you tons of missions. there's a whole underwater society that you start to explore and put together the pieces of a mystery and stuff like that too. And then sometimes when you're not diving, you're taking your haul back to your friend's restaurant, where he is a very eccentric sushi chef, and he challenges you to help develop the menu and help kind of flesh out his restaurant and hire new staff. And then it's just cooking mama. It's really just you. You're not actually making sushi. He's there making, and knives are flying and things like that. And people are filing into your restaurant, and you're picking up orders and delivering to them. You're pouring kind of the perfect pour, the perfect cup of green tea. Where you got to use the sticks to sort of like slosh it into the cup and then just tip the kettle back at exactly the right time so it levels off perfectly, and you get a little starburst that says "perfect pour." And they leave nice reviews of your restaurant on social media and things like that. So you're trying to get good reviews. You're trying to make money so that you can put in new chairs and change the look of the restaurant and hang paintings and things like that and make it more desirable. You start catering to critics and what they would like to see in your restaurant. So you read some of your reviews on social media, and you can kind of tweak your menu and tweak your offerings and stuff. At some point you can hire a ton of staff, and they're all running around kind of rapidly filling orders and clearing tables and things like that for you. Well, you're basically supervising, selecting the menu every day, and doing a lot of like big time like restaurant management things. So it is surprising how
sushi.
You're not. No, your friend, your eccentric chef friend, is kind of in the corner, hammering away at the fish that you caught and turning it into just the most beautiful little pixel arts of sushi that I've ever seen in a video game.
I guess that makes sense because, he was established, or it was established that he was a sushi chef at the start of this. So
right.
Makes sense that he would be handling that. It just seems like I can't believe that there's no point in you just like don't help him out at all.
No, well, you could do something. So like he'll stop filling orders if he runs out of wasabi.
Okay.
So there's a mini game where you have to run over to the wasabi station. You have to grind more wasabi for him, so that he can continue to plate up orders. And there's other little things like that sort of evolve over the course of the game, where you're sort of doing peripheral stuff to kind of help him, but you're never at any point, like at least as far as I've gotten in the game, making sushi rolls or anything like that.
Okay. Well.
Yeah.
Gonna save it for the sequel where you are playing exclusively as the sushi guy and you don't do any diving whatsoever.
So it's surprising how much of the game is this restaurant management minigame and how kind of in depth it is, because you're doing a lot of like cost analysis of the ingredients that you're catching during the day and trying to figure out what like the right price is and how many units of an item you can put on the menu that's sort of cost effective for you. You're doing recipe research. So you can enhance recipes by adding different ingredients and things like that. So you have to source like olive oil and soy sauce and things. And it's quite complex. It complex in a way that a game called Dave the Diver doesn't prepare you to sort of be Dave the restaurateur.
It sounds very different than what I was picturing.
Yeah.
Like how deep is the restaurant side of the game compared to the diving section?
Much deeper than the diving section.
So is all you're doing really in the diving section just go out and like capturing fish or fighting sharks occasionally?
Yeah, I mean, there's a loop there too. You're upgrading your equipment. You're getting bigger nets or different tanks that allow you to go deeper. And you're trying to find stuff. Sometimes you go into the water with a specific menu in mind or a specific client in mind that you're trying to cater to. So there's a bit of a hunt that you're going through, trying to sort of find agar or the right kind of seaweed and things like that. So yeah, there's a little bit of sort of exploration. It's a ticking clock because you're going to run out of air eventually. So you have to be very efficient with your time. You have to avoid particularly aggressive fish, particularly the further down you go. And like I said, there's all these other little mysteries that sort of get sort of sent your way as you start exploring further and further. Those are fairly straightforward, though. You get 2 chances a day to go diving. You get 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. And it's generally with some objective in mind. And it's a bit of a ticking clock for you to kind of complete those objectives and then go back and then run the restaurant for dinner service that evening. And there's kind of these little interstitial games of you, like I said, kind of selecting your menu and distributing ingredients and things like that, and kind of planning your next move, decorating the restaurant. So yeah, it does feel a little surprisingly weighted on the side of restaurant management and not diving for a game called Dave the Diver. But both of those little loops are fun and very satisfying. The dinner service is like 3 minutes long, so it's this rush of a mini game of you directing traffic, and eventually you get to a point where you've got servers who report to you, and you're really just trying to be backup and help clear spaces and things like that. So it's it feels a little more fluid and a little bit more like a I work retail, so it feels a little bit like a Black Friday craziness where you're like, hopefully you've done the work to kind of get your team prepared. You've got the ingredients you need. You've got, and you just open the door and hopefully the business comes and you do your thing. And there are days that running the restaurant in the game feels very much like that. So it's cool to sort of see you do the work during the day and then kind of spin up the top essentially and let it go at night and have an awesome dinner. And at the end of the dinner rush, you get sort of stats for the day and, how many tops did you clear today? And what was your profit? And was it your best day ever, or was it the worst day in the last 30 days? And so you get all these little like analysis of your business so that you can kind of plan and make different decisions for tomorrow. So it's, wow. Again, surprisingly in depth, but satisfying and all done in a way that doesn't feel kind of overwhelming. It's all very sort of quick, very fast. So it's not you staring at menus for 25 minutes trying to make, Borderland style decisions about what scope you need or anything like that. It's it all feels very kind of instinctive and it's fun to sort of see it play out over the course of a day or two with the dinner service at the end of the night.
Yeah, well, you're just a natural with your retail experience.
That might be exactly. I'm like, I know exactly what I'm doing. I can get the schedule posted on Monday. We got this all good. So yeah, it's nice. It feels satisfying. That said, the game is a ton of personality. The characters are really funny. There's a lot of really funny dialogue and very eccentric characters. Your sushi chef is this wildly eccentric. You think of the biggest personality you've ever seen on like Iron Chef or something personified. Mm-hmm. You get these cutscenes where he's developing new recipes of him sort of pondering and staring at the ocean, and then knives flying, and then he's doing the Salt Bay sprinkle and stuff like that. So it's very the game understands that the loop beyond you diving and running the restaurant also requires sort of peopling the game with some really eccentric characters. There's a restaurant critic named Yoshi, who's super fun. And every time she shows up in the restaurant, you're like, oh no, everybody full alarm fire to sort of like make sure Yoshi has the best experience and, checking social media the next day to see what her reviews are. But she's actually a secret softie and wants you to have a successful restaurant. So you get little cutscenes with her kind of mooning over Dave and little hearts around her and stuff like that. And it's cute. I've had a really, really good time with it. And every day I kind of pick it up and play for a few more days in the game. And it sort of reveals itself a little bit more to me. And you get more crazy characters and fun things happening. And I can see why people like it. I can see why it sort of came out of nowhere over the course of the summer. And folks were like, what the heck is this thing? This is super fun.
Did you get the sense that they were talking about the diving or just all the other stuff you're doing?
I think all the other stuff you're doing. I think certainly the diving and restaurant management are fun and fairly straightforward. But I think there are a lot of games that are kind of technically sound that sort of do specific things well. But if you can fill that game full of like memorable characters and a fun mystery and things that sort of reveal themselves over time and kind of reward you for playing and diving into some of these things, no pun intended. I think that's where Dave the Diver kind of excels. It's that kind of madcap cast of characters with some really kind of efficient and fun and very satisfying mechanical loops behind it.
That's so funny. Whenever, when I first caught wind of this, it sounded like it was just a diving game. And I was like, why are people like, just like, well, diving must be really good in this game for people to be talking about it this way. But now that you have revealed that there's so much more going on, it makes a little more sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess I don't know if the name of it is supposed to be a bit of a like a reductive joke in some way, that it's clearly Dave the everything. Because I mean, as Dave, you really kind of get roped into like a ton of different things. You get, the person who is selling you, your equipment is clearly like an arms dealer, and is just the shadiest of characters. Your boat driver keeps dropping hints about him running some very illegal things behind the scenes. And so and you're just sort of like moon-eyed and kind of goofy and stroking your goatee and wondering, what does he mean by that? And just, showing up for your friends and diving into the blue hole and catching fish and then running a restaurant at night. And you're just surrounded by all this kind of insanity sometimes. So to sort of call it Dave the Diver is like, Dave is the least interesting element of this game in so many ways. He's just this kind of bland, happy dude. Thumbs up for representation for kind of generic middle-aged chubby guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's not a lot of that in video games. So for him to be the pivot point around which all of this kind of transpires is fun. Anytime he shows up, he's just sort of the least likely suspect, I think, in so many ways. But he's fun. He's just a good time. So it's memorable in a lot of unique ways. I think the least memorable or notable thing about it is the diving.
Well, that's unexpected.
I like that though. I like that it's sort of like, oh wait, it's way more than the thing I thought it was going to be based on the stupid name.
Yeah. It is kind of like I did not have especially like high hopes for it when I saw everybody talk about this thing called like Dave the Diver. Like, what? Sounds very one note, but sounds like it is completely the opposite of that.
Yeah. And his friends Bob the Builder and Scuba Steve.
Exactly. It's like, where's Bob the Builder? Where's Dora the Explorer?
Right.
The whole cast.
I think I've played versions of that Dora the Explorer game, so it seems likely that it seems about time that maybe Bob the Builder got his thing.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, what is he actually doing? He's just building one building at a time. It's not quite a city management game, but it's like the first steps.
Yeah, that would be cool. Bob the Builder, like SimCity.
Yeah. Bob the Builder, Minecraft, like.
Right. Yeah.
Man, where's Dragon Quest Builders 3? That's the game I want to play. Where is it?
Yeah, you would think. I mean, I always got the impression that those were very highly regarded and sold a lot of copies. So
I thought so. I hope so.
It's weird that we don't have a Dragon Quest 3 yet, or a Dragon Quest Builders 3.
Well, I feel like Dragon Quest Builders 3, if they follow the same trajectory as the previous ones, it would be based on Dragon Quest 3, which is like the most popular video game in Japan of all time. So it would probably just destroy the country. Like nothing would get done. Everybody would be too busy playing that game.
Brace yourselves.
So maybe they're just taking their time doing a really good job with it.
Yeah. Well, that's fine too. We can wait then.
Yeah. Hopefully the Switch Pro will be out by then.
Right, and can handle it. So I would recommend the folks check out Dave the Diver. I'm having a really good time with it. If any of this craziness sounds fun to you, at the very least, check out the demo. It is currently on the Switch and on Steam. It's Steam Deck verified, so if you have a deck, it's supposed to play really well on that. The one thing on the Switch that I am struggling a little bit with is the text is so tiny.
I thought we had all learned that lesson.
Yeah.
And so small.
I will concede that I am a gamer of a certain age, and some of this might be me. But I really, really am struggling with the non-scalable fonts in this game, and that I can't see half the shit that pops up on the screen unless I take off my glasses or push them down to the end of my nose and squint over the top of them. And that's not a good feeling. I really just would like to go into a menu and go make it bigger.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the developers have not thought of that.
Are you playing this in handheld most of the time?
Mostly, yeah. I mean, most of my Switch time is handheld, so if I put it on my big TV, it's fine. But I want to travel with it, and I want to play it in bed before I go to sleep at night. And it's a little difficult sometimes to sort of see. Particularly, the one thing on the screen is this sort of like checklist you have of like objectives as you dive into the blue hole of things you want to accomplish and things you need to collect. And that is just microscopic. I really feel like, how is that the smallest text in the entire game? I really cannot see anything.
Yeah. Only optimized for 60-inch TVs or something. Right.
Yeah. So it kind of makes me feel bad. It makes me a little angry every time I play it and remind myself that I can't see shit.
Ugh. Do you remember how upset people were about the font in Dead Rising on the Xbox 360?
I do not. No, I don't think I know that story.
Oh,
no.
I think that was the first instance I can remember of people saying like, "Wow, the text is just too small, guys," because it was like one of the first like HD generation games, and they just did not design the font with the expectation that people would be playing this on standard definition TVs still.
Oh, so interesting.
It was actually like illegible at times, but I just remember thinking like, man, people are making so much of a fuss about this. It's just never going to happen again. This is just such a famous incident. And then, no, it just happens constantly. So, I don't know what the moral of that story is.
Yeah, yeah. I can say that I've kind of, in a way, I guess I've sort of screwed myself on this, because if I was playing it on the Steam Deck has a zoom function. And you can kind of zoom in on anything on the screen to be able to read it. I played most of Strange Horticulture that way because the text in that was quite small, but I played that on my Steam Deck, and you can just zoom in and read all the stuff, and it's beautiful. And then zoom out and play the rest of the game. Dave the Diver would have been great on the Steam Deck, and it would have been so much nicer to be able to zoom in to read, but like a fool, I started playing on the Switch. And I'm stuck now. I can't read any of it.
It's so funny that you just like waited so long specifically for the Switch version, and then you're just like, I am a fool.
Yep, I've screwed myself out of I don't know, reading the checklist of things I'm supposed to be hunting when I go fishing. So yeah, whatever. Hopefully they get their shit together and they patch new fonts into this thing, or at least a bigger font, please.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm having trouble with this. And then I Googled it, and it seems like I'm not the only one. So,
okay. Yeah.
There's, if there's any power in numbers, me and like 6 other people on Reddit are angry about it.
Yeah. Well, it only took Square Enix like a year and a half to come around on fixing the font of those Final Fantasy Pixel remasters. So, you know.
That's where I thought you were going with that sort of font conversation, because that's the one I distinctly remember people being angry about in recent history.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that one, like, I was upset about it, but that wasn't a usability thing, because it was still perfectly legible. It was just ugly. Like, you couldn't read that Dead Rising font whatsoever on the wrong type of TV.
Got it. Yeah, this is not a matter of it being ugly. It's just so tiny.
Yeah. That's too bad. There's not a great solution for it.
Yeah. Still fun though. Notwithstanding,
I mean, you still seem to be enjoying it despite not being able to read all the text in it.
I didn't open with that as my complaint. I buried it at the end here. So
yeah.
But yeah, if you're particularly sensitive to that, or for my vegan friends, you might have some trouble with the underwater components of this game. I'll be honest with you. It's a little off-putting sometimes, but if you can get past it and realize it's just pixels, and just because you do it in a video game doesn't mean it's one of your core values in real life, you'll be fine. I'll be fine.
Sure. I'm surprised. Like, I don't see that level of like I don't know, blood simulation in video games unless you're playing something like Mortal Kombat or whatever, where they're just like, that's the whole point.
Yes, yeah. But this is not on par with the Mortal Kombat experience, of course. I'm sorry if I gave anybody that impression.
Yeah, but like I wouldn't picture them having, like the blood cloud in the water. That's very graphic.
Yeah.
They should just dissolve into a bunch of little sparkly pixels or something.
What's the Minecraft thing where it just turns into a little piece of meat?
Oh yeah, just turns into the little bone loaf.
Right, yeah, bone loaf. There you go.
Or, just the full, just fillet section of a shark immediately just goes into your inventory. Classic. So, I guess that's it. I'm going to keep plugging away at this. I've heard the ending is delightful. Oh, okay.
So in the same search as me, sort of looking to see if anybody else was struggling with the text size in the game. Somebody had posted again on Reddit, like, just finished it, loved it, perfect ending to a perfect game. I was like, oh, I need to know how it ends. Sorry, I'm going to try to stick with it.
Gets together with the restaurant critic, and they sail off into the sunset.
They open their own restaurant, and I don't know. And there's your sequel.
Yeah, and then you have to do the sushi.
Right. So yeah.
Cool.
I think that about does it for this week. I still played a Suika game, but I'm sure nobody wants to hear me talk about watermelons anymore.
Did you beat your high score yet? Or I forget what your
I continue to
goal is
beat
at
my
this
high
point.
score. Yeah, it's not a daily occurrence by any means, but I feel like once or twice a week, I inch a little further ahead. I've seen some watermelons at this point.
Yeah, it's good. Good sign.
Which feels good. Yeah, it's living up to its potential there.
Seeing more watermelons than you were previously.
Definitely, like 100% more. Although, still nowhere near the global leaderboard on this thing. So I'm not sure what secret techniques people are using, but I've yet to learn them. But it's fun. It was a just delightfully addictive little weird game.
Are these like plausible scores on the leaderboards? Because it's like sometimes it's hard to tell. Or sometimes it's very easy to tell. Like, okay, so that's not a real score. Somebody is just cheating their way up the leaderboard. But it seems legit.
That I don't know. I mean, the scores are so much cartoonishly higher than mine that it's hard to imagine anybody being able to be this good at this game. Because so much of the game sort of hinges on kind of just randomness. You're not sort of controlling the play field in a way that you do in a Tetris game where everything sort of lines up neatly. You just have to sort of find the right place for it. Mm-hmm. This, like all the little fruit inside the bowl, like kind of nudges and moves and swirls around and pushes other stuff out of the way. So like, even if you attack it with like perfect strategy, there's still that randomness of like shit moving around that makes it kind of uncontrollable in that way. And you can't really account for that perfectly. So, there are people like my best score is 2,300. We have somebody in our Discord today who said that his, and this is a challenge to me, I think, more than anything, his wife just hit 2,800. I need to know what her technique is. But yeah, there are people on leaderboards who are doing consistently like 8,000 and 9,000 point games. And I don't know how you do that without cheating. And I also don't know how to cheat on a Switch game. So I'm not sure how it's even happening.
Maybe someday you'll discover the dark techniques.
Yeah. I need to go to the dark web and find out the secrets for Suika game.
Man, I can't believe how many just shameless knockoffs of this there are on the iOS App Store. I've just been scrolling through it, and they're all like, they all have the same like cute faces on the watermelons and everything. It's just a sad state of mobile gaming.
Yeah. I mean, these devs need to really just use any of the money they're making from this and hire a bunch of lawyers. Cease and desist. But anyway, that about does it for this week. Got anything else?
I think that's it.
Cool. If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. And you can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this episode at VGHangover.com. We would love for you to join us on Discord. You can hang out with us and chat about video games and video game music and movies and podcasts and all kinds of other fun stuff. You can get a link to that at VGHangover.com. And it would help us immensely if you would subscribe, rate, and review us on your podcasting app of choice. And maybe help us out by telling your friends about the show while you're at it.
Yeah. I'll just get the word out about the show, bring in new listeners. They can all join the Discord and post their embarrassingly high Suika game scores. Just give Randy something to work towards.
No.
Or they could join and give Randy tips. I don't know.
Yes.
You can go light side or dark side for that one. Anyway, we want to give thanks again to Fear of Dark, who's speaking of the dark side, for our intro and outro music this week. If you'd like to hear more of his work, you can go to fearofdark.bandcamp.com. Check out the rest of his discography. Maybe buy all of his discography. That would be terrific.
Yeah. A hell of a thing to do.
Yeah.
Cool. It was GD Milkman. It says his wife got 2,800 to my high score of 2,200. So shout out to Mrs. Milkman. Dr. Mrs. the Monarch.
Yeah.
Cool. And we'll be back next week. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is TJ Ross.
Thanks so much for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.
It stinks.